Which weapon is the most powerful? Which weapon is the most fun? Which weapon is the best?
Please, God, stop killing me to death!
Hello, my fellow hunters, my fellow Riselings! I've decided I'm going to call you Riselings. Today then, I bring you the Rise Weapon Power Rankings. At least for the demo, and at least against Mizitsune. But even with those two disclaimers, what this tells us about the weapons and the balance across them, the spread of power, is quite fascinating. There are some weapons that are absolutely dominating, and there are some weapons that are kind of more... So, essentially, I have done my best to find the fastest speedrun time against Mizitsune with every single weapon, and, well, compared them. But before we break down into it, let me first say three things. Number one, as I always have said in all my time hunting the monsters, if you get quest complete, drop down onto your screen, or I guess in Rise's case, fade in this cool artistic style. I mean, seriously, it's really quite beautiful. And you have had fun, you have enjoyed yourself, then nothing else matters. Use whatever build, whatever weapon, whatever technique, dog only, kunai only, I don't care. You do you, and you have fun hunting, because that's what matters. Two, this, again, is just Mizitsune, so if a weapon isn't particularly suited to powering through a quite fast, slippery, leviathan-y, agile, jumpy, bubbly monster, well then it's of course going to struggle against the weapons that, in fact, are.
Oh God, I really do struggle with being hit in the face with a sword. Stop!
And then finally, there's no skills in the demo. There's just none. No armor skills, and that is a big deal because not all skills affect all weapons equally. If you give focus to every single weapon in the demo, Greatsword is going to get the biggest bump. If you give Constitution, well then Bow is going to be very pleased. So skills will definitely go some way to, let's say, shortening the spread of power here, but I doubt it will shorten it enough, and that's one of the main inspirations for this video. There is a huge gulf between the fastest weapon killing Mizitsune and the slowest. So without further ado, let's get to it. Actually, one more little bit of preamble. I really would recommend that you check out each of the speedruns I'll be featuring today in full. The players behind them all are incredible, and it's just like watching artistry unfold in the way they make their weapons dance. They'll all be in the description, I'll remind you again at the end, but genuinely, it's some breathtaking stuff. So, let's begin then with our slowest weapon, the Lightbowgun. This is honestly kind of to be expected. Lightbowgun is one of those weapons that gets exponentially more powerful when you can do a proper build for it. This kind of have all of the ammo in a random set demo build. Bowgun is never going to be setting the world on fire, and thus is where I'd expect it to be. Following that then, in 11 minutes, 10 seconds, it's Insect Glaive. And this one is interesting to me. This weapon hasn't had a good reputation so far. It's caused a lot of back and forth, a lot of discussion. It is definitely a step back, I think, from Iceborne Insect Glaive. It does feel a little bit to play, but its output isn't the worst thing in the world. It's still fun. What it can do out of actually fighting the monster with wall clinging and the climbing is great, and it does feel like the master of the air, being able to zip back up while your weapon is unsheathed. But that all said, when it comes to just rawly killing the monster, not great. I imagine a large part due to the Kinsect that we have access to being so slow. And therefore gathering your essences is quite the chore. Following that then is Lance with 1029. Now don't get me wrong, Lance is the most fun thing in the world. raw damage is just kind of slow. But you're not playing Lance to kill things very quickly, you're playing it to play Lance. To either guard Lance or evade Lance. Yes, you can go full damage, but Lance has never been a powerhouse of speedrunning. It's Lance, it's reliable, it's a rock, and that's what it's designed to be, and now it's a bouncy rock too! And I'm very much okay with its ranking here. Next up then, it's the sword, it's the shield, it's the both of them together, it's the perfect rush executed perfectly in a rush, because it's a speedrun and you need to be perfect. I thought that was quite good. Honestly, Sword and Shield is really good in Rise. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. The rush combo into the shield donk is great. The spinny wires is a lot of fun, and really, it's just a solid weapon. It's a good all-rounder, which it has always been. The skill ceiling is there, and its damage output isn't the most shameful thing in the world. It will always have the reputation Sword and Shield does, but really, it is doing fine for itself in Rise. Then, after small and stabby, comes big and smashy. It's Hammer with 953. And this is just a solid placement for a solid weapon. Hammer's Rise flow is really smooth, it feels good, the silk binds are great, having power charge be an almost toggle on and toggle off, changing your moveset in a meaningful way so you can run and let rip with your absolutely huge smash instead of having to do the spin. It really does have a lot going for it, and it's awesome to see it all on display. Then we have Heavy Bowgun at 9 minutes 50, and this is just fine. The new charge up mechanic is neat, though I feel like the damage from just spamming shots is better than just charging them. The time it takes to do is a fair amount. Maybe focus will actually make quite the impact on Heavy Bowgun, which would be interesting to see. Build aside, it kind of has the light bowgun issue. You need to have a good build to really let it pop off. The base weapon with random ammo on a random gun in a random build isn't the best. It's just slightly more powerful than light bowgun happens to be, chiefly because of Wyvern Heart and the raw DPS that can output. Then we have Charge Blade at 905, a very respectable ranking on a very respectable weapon. Losing Savage Axe is definitely a little bit of sadness, but it still does what it does quite well, quite efficiently, and without real complaint. Shooting into 7th spot then is Bow. And this is a big surprise to me because honestly, I thought Bow would kind of struggle. It simply doesn't have as powerful a moveset as it used to have in Iceborne, losing the ability to open up with spread shots. And on top of that, Bow is an exceptionally both element and skill-based weapon. And by skill, I mean armor skills. Every weapon is a skill-based weapon in terms of skill, but you know what I mean. Getting that constitution, getting those normal and spread shots, getting the build that you want to really make it pop is quite a big deal when it comes to Bow. But then again, Bow has always been a very powerful weapon. It has always been up there on rankings. It was top 4 in Iceborne, and it just has a oomph to it that is core to the weapon and will always probably be core to the weapon. There's also a lot of coating shenanigans with the bow that we have in the demo, which does lend itself to a much faster run, but all in all, Bow is in a very good place. Silk binds are nothing crazy, but they're definitely useful. Dragon Piercer feels a little bit less impactful, but it's still good old Dragon Piercer. Yeah, Bow is good. Following that then is SwAxe, who has an incredibly speedy time, and to be fair, I can see why. It is so boom! And I don't just mean the explosion. Its silk binds are magnificently fun, the twirly around, dancey damage is great. ZSD is still absolutely fantastic fun to use, even if we can't just, clutch claw spam it anymore. It really is just a satisfying experience. One of my favorite weapons, Wild Swing's a blast. It's got respectable numbers, and of course a very respectable time. Dual Blades then are coming in at a very respectable 5th, and again, this is both surprising and not surprising. customizing. Similar to the bow reasoning, dual blades is very much all about that element, and we just have to use what we're given at the moment, which does kind of limit the pure power when something like Greatsword, which just cares about hitting hard, can do that no matter what the circumstance. But also dual blades is just a very good weapon. It has always been a very good weapon. It's always been in the upper half of speed rankings, and it genuinely just has a solid moveset that isn't too much changed, and it hasn't really lost much in the transition to Rise. Its tilt binds are fine, the stack up damage is really cool. It just, well, works, and it is so much fun to play. Being able to hop up into the air and spin is just lovely. I really am a fan of Rise dual blades. Following that then, we have, oh yes, the Great Sword! And, you know, granted, coming in at 4th when it should be number 1 because it's the best weapon, it's still ridiculously impressive as we have a big jump in time now. That is speed, and it is beyond beautiful to watch the greatsword be made to sing in the hands of a professional. The sadness is that really there's not a lot of wire bugging going on. It's normal, true charge, hit the weak point, time your attacks, get them off when you can, continue onwards as we've always greatsworded while keeping the new power sheath buff off, but at the same time that's fine because it's still satisfying. It still feels good every single hit, and hey, if we want to jump around and use our aerial attacks and have all of that, we can. It's not that much slower. The options are there, and it just looks wonderful in action. It is straight up poetry. Following that, we have the Gun Lance, which is probably the biggest surprise for me, because Gun Lance has never really been up there when it comes to speedrunning. It's not the most potently powerful weapon you've ever seen, it just kinda gets the job done. To put it in perspective, it was on average the 11th slowest weapon in Iceborne/World, so it really has risen up here. Rose in the rise in the rankings. Yep, really funny, good stuff. And look, Gun Lance is one of the weapons that is still quite alien to me, despite thousands upon thousands as a Monster Hunter. It's never really appealed, though I will say being able to rocket jump, shell yourself higher into the air is one of the most beautiful things ever, but it really is doing a lot of damage very quickly, on top of having the counter, the ability to just guard, of course, and just stand there wreaking havoc upon the monster. Then we get to the big boys. We have, of course, there's no hiding from it. Hunting Horn is ridiculously strong. It is so powerful. It has gone from one of the worst to one of the best in the matter of a game. It used to be the 13th slowest weapon on average in Iceborne to blowing away Mizutsune in 4 minutes 59 seconds. Sub 5 minutes. It does so much damage. It buffs itself effortlessly. The new Song of Raging Flame is a lovely boon. It just absolutely crushes. Has that KO potential as well. The goddamn like sonic string vibration silk bind is wondrously powerful, and there is just so many options to dance around as a breakdancing hunter of carnage. It really is kind of wondrous to see it all flow in action. The frequency of attacks is high, the numbers on those attacks is high, and the versatility is just here with the songs. Hunting Horn, at least in this incarnation, is just good. It's fun, it is potent, and I imagine we'll be seeing a lot of it. And let's be honest, after Hunting Horn's time through the years, yeah, it's about time the musicians got the spotlight. But not the full spotlight, because of course, the fucking longsword players can't let anything go, and they still need to kill everything insanely quickly. 4 minutes 22 seconds? Seriously, what the hell? I can't deal with how powerful this still is. It is beautiful to watch it in motion, but if one thing that is sure, Longsword is not suffering in Rise. Keeping the eye slash and thus the counter is a huge deal for them. The Silkbines adding that much more potency and utility, the counterer's weapon of dreams, and really, there is not a lot I need to say here. They've not lost much, and they've gained a ton, and their damage output is absolutely stellar, on top of their ability to just keep attacking and attacking and attacking, because no matter what the monster does, Longsword is going to be Longsword. So yeah, the most popular weapon is the most powerful weapon. I was hoping that maybe, that might shift, but then again it still might, because we need to look at everything together. These are our times, and as you may notice, Longsword at near 4 minutes to Lightbowgun all the way up there approaching 12, that is 3 times faster. Whereas in Iceborne, when all was said and done with builds at endgame, well, the fastest weapon was Heavy Bowgun and the slowest weapon was Lance, but on average, Lance took double the time to kill things that Heavy Bowgun did, so a much tighter spread of power. And this leads me to, of course, have a few conclusions here. Firstly, again, it's against one specific monster with no skills. This will tighten up a lot once we can average it across every single monster with builds actually coming into play. We are very pigeonholed at the moment and have to use what we're given, and of course that will more naturally arrange itself in a very distinct power order. But again, it is quite spread. It would be easy to look at this and say, bring down the Longsword and the Hunting Horn and bring up the Insect Glaive and the Lightbowgun, but I have a feeling that we have a lot more to see when it comes to what the weapons are capable of. Skills aside though, we have little snippets of the Gun Lance doing this, which is just awesome to see. It's such a fun move. But obviously that's not something we can do in the demo, and it's also not visibly using a wire bug from the looks. So, ipso facto, there has to be a way to customize the weapon moveset, because there's no way they've randomly turned off moves in the demo. It'd be like if they put Greatsword in, but just removed the ability to true charge until the full game. That's just weird. So presumably then, we're going to be able to choose certain attacks, or loadouts, or styles, or a way to give the weapon a unique moveset from someone else using the weapon, whether that is on a base moveset level, or a Silkbind choice. Maybe they come in pairs and you choose one of a couple pair options. Maybe you just choose them individually and you just choose 2 out of a spread of 10 or something. I don't think it's a coincidence that a lot of the Silkbinds tend to have a big similarity to a lot of the Hunter arts from GU. It's the same team making this game, so to adapt them all into Silkbinds, or at least the ones that they want to keep, and then give you options like you had with your Hunter arts, is something I think would work out. Now that's something that needs its own full exploration theory type video, but it would go away to explaining why the balance is so spread across the weapons, because there will be options or loadouts presumably on top of skills against different monsters that really compact this back together, because Monster Hunter on the whole really doesn't have that bad weapon balance. It just doesn't. It's quite good at that, believe it or not, across the games, outside of stuff like Slime when it was first introduced. In any case, I digress. It is fascinating to me to see how the weapons are falling, and I hope it is to you as well. Are you happy with your weapon placement? Disappointed with it? What conclusions are you drawing here? Now that I've kind of finished telling you them all, I do want to have the disclaimer that, again, this is the best runs I could find. There might be even better ones. The rankings might have shifted slightly by the time you guys are watching this. And of course, you can find all the runs that I used as my reference point down below. They're all worth watching. They're all fantastic people and players, and you really should just see the full hunt and really appreciate what they do. In any case, like you've enjoyed this, subscribe for more, and I will see you soon. Please consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below. It very much keeps us going. A goodbye.
Rage Gaming with the video float.
But that's all that's really relevant at the mo, but I'm still gonna leave this up so you patrons know that I love you, even though the outro's no longer that kind of relevant. But the new one's being worked on, and it's gonna be a truly badass song, and don't worry, I won't be doing any rapping on it. I'm gonna go now. This was shit.